Good morning, everybody. Good to see you, and thank you for being here. When you have to give a talk, you think maybe nobody will be there, and then that sounds good, or then it sounds bad. It's nice to see people. I spent the early morning really trying to not come up with, but somehow to bring together a lot of thoughts about why we are here, why we do this, what are we doing, following the way of the Buddha and our teachers here. And I remember a woman, I don't know if I've ever seen her again, I don't remember, but she talked one time saying that she was very disappointed in herself because she had been meditating for a few weeks and she hadn't been able to stop arguing with her friends. She thought she could do it. I know, I'm aware. And then of course somebody would say something and she felt bad about it, and she felt like, how can I ever make this world a better place if I can't even do this? I mean, she didn't use those exact words, but that's what she was saying. And the idea that this world is suffering, and the world is, when they talk about the world, I mean, what I understand from that is that which emanates out from me, that's my experience in the world, and yet I have absolutely no control over anything. So it's great fiefdom, right? It's all mine, and I can't do anything with it. And I thought about people who took that, the way I look at it is just that this is sort of for me and for my world and my experience and the people I know and the animals I meet and the trees I sit under and all that sort of thing. That it's my journey, how else can you do? How else can you, obey the precepts if that's for you. The precepts are for me when I, no lying, no stealing, no whatever, all the bad stuff. And so, how can I possibly make the world a better place when I can't even, keep my mind from racing around or doing whatever. But I saw from her that she really truly felt that her reason for doing things was to make the world a better place. And I mean, I have to acknowledge that is a wonderful thing. And maybe there is a way that she is finding to make the world a better place through her own experience. It makes me think of people who really have made the world a better place. And some of it is very shocking, and some of it is just simply surprising or amazing. These are in our lifetime, not some, great thing that's out there that was back, 500 years ago or whatever. And one was a woman who she was a Roman Catholic. She was a good Catholic. She lived in San Diego, California. She was a woman of property and money. Her husband was an executive, something or other. But she had always been attracted to helping people. And she got the diocese in San Diego found her a place. Well, they didn't find it for her, but there was a place. They needed someone in the prison, in the jail of God, how could I forget that? Tijuana, which is the Mexican face-to-face with San Diego. So, and Tijuana has a very bad reputation, and it loves it because people come to experience the bad reputation. But for people who live there, it's pretty tough. She was assigned to help the prisoners in the Tijuana jail. And I can only tell you, I read this in the newspaper several years ago, so I can only tell you the facts they were doing in the paper. They needed someone who would help the prisoners, because a Mexican jail is not, it's a terrible place. And I can speak to that because I have been in a Mexican jail, not as an inmate, but I've seen it. And it's the most primitive conditions, not enough food. The state provides virtually nothing, really, for the inmates. And this isn't prison, this is jail. I don't know what prison is like. I'm sure it's horrible, but they probably feed the inmates. People are sort of carted in there and left, and they want to get word to their families about what's happening, and can they get something that will make their life a little easier if the family can provide it. But there's no communication. There's no avenues of communication for the inmates unless somebody leaves the place and goes to see the relatives of this inmate. And so she was assigned to help the prisoners by finding out what their needs were and whether or not those needs could be met, and if so, how. And then she would do it. Like she would get somebody the medication that he needed, that the jail was not interested or able to help in that way at all. Other things like clothing, you found people who have really, they don't even have any underwear. And so she would arrange for underwear to be brought to the place for this man. There might be some refreshments, for example, that she might be able to get that nobody has to pay for, and she would get that sort of thing. And she did this work for years, and then at a certain point she left home. She no longer was. She had a husband. I don't know whether he died or whether they had an agreement that she would now leave, and she would live at the jail. And the jail made a little apartment for her. I mean, that's probably too fancy, but she had her own little part of the jail, and she was there 24 hours a day, and she worked on behalf of these prisoners every day. And in the night, if they needed something, she was there. And she lived there until she died. She died there. And that was the end of that story in the New York Times. But you could tell that, this is not a usual story for the New York Times. And so it was well placed, and I saw it in the paper. And I've thought about her ever since. I mean, what a thing to do. She wanted to make the world a better place. And she did that for these people. And now, I have been in the Mexican jail as a visitor. And it's no fun. I mean, people die in darkness in these dark rooms where there's no windows, because of course then they would escape. There's a hole in the floor which serves as a toilet. And they're hungry. They're hungry. There's not enough food. And the keepers, they're not exactly great, but there's not really enough for them either. It's not a great life to be a keeper at a Mexican jail. That's one person. And the other person was a monk in Myanmar. I don't know exactly when, but this would have been like sometime in the 1960s. He was very, very, very disturbed and concerned about the treatment of, I don't know which group of people anymore, I don't remember. It was genocide, basically. And he wanted to do something about it. I mean, he's a monk. What could he do? He didn't do anything. And he agonized and agonized about it. And I know this story because I read it in one of those things that it's like the Buddha Dharma magazine or something like that. Other than that, I don't know anything about him. But he started singing, this is his friend who told everybody about it, his friend, because the young man was no longer alive. He felt, what can I do? What can I do? What avenues are there for me to help these people? This is so overwhelming. And, and the government is against us. So if you do anything, you get punished, and, then you're no longer able to help people. And he's agonizing. And then he started talking to his friends about self-immolation. In other words, he said, if I give up myself, I give up my whole self for this. There's no actual act that I can do that will make somebody, make them stop doing this. There's nothing I can do, as a living person. And I'm thinking about, setting myself on fire because I want people to know what is happening here. And that's the only way anything is ever going to happen for these, these people. And of course, all of his friends, all of whom were monks, were horrified and telling him, no, don't do this. No, there's other ways. Or, let's face it, you kill yourself. How's that helping people? How is that going to work? No, you can't do this. No, this thing. And then one day, after a lot of discussion with his friends and weeping and, all sorts of things like that, he went to a place on the temple grounds where he lived, a sort of a raised up place. He set up something to sit. He poured gasoline over himself, and he lit himself on fire, and he burned. And no one could do anything about it because it happened so fast. They couldn't put the fire out. And I knew he would be terrible because he would fail and also be aware of the terrible pain. So he just did it. And I remember the description of how he sat in meditation without moving and without completely upright the entire time. And then the fire consumed until finally his body just fell over to the side, and that was done. And interestingly enough, within a month or so, other monks began to immolate themselves in Southeast Asia. When I came to know about it, it was the 1960s or something like that, or it's even maybe the 70s by then. And I don't know when it stopped, or I don't know if it stopped. I don't know. But it accomplished something. It accomplished the awareness all over the world of what's happening there. And so I see him as having given himself. What else did he have? He had nothing. He had nothing. He was a monk. He had nothing that belonged to him except himself. And he gave that self, which is body and mind. He gave that. You never want to look at history with these things because, of course, the same stuff always goes on after people do the most amazing things. So those are two people who gave of themselves until there was nothing left. Nothing left. And we're here at the very beginning of this kind of thing, where we have to even know what our self is. How can I give of myself if I'm not sure what that is? How can I describe myself to, and I can describe it to myself, but I mean the depth of it, or the real truth of it, is something that I want to know more. Not like that, but just I want to know what it is that I am letting go of or getting rid of. When we talk about, we don't want to, don't remove yourself from this incident, or remove yourself from what it is you're doing, or remove yourself from what you see, like with my meditation, seeing the forest and everything, and then realizing that I still have to let go of some of that I'm still attached to it in some way, so that myself is very active, and it's all for me as far as I can tell. But the meditation is where I begin to see myself, the self, myself. And I see it as a kind of ownership. That myself is an ownership. It wants to, and when you own something, then you can control it. And so I see that part of myself. And you say, well, I'm going to let that go. Good luck. And I can't remember what I have to think for a minute. What I'm talking about here. We're talking about meditation and letting go of the self, because that's the path to, waking up when there's nothing left except the body and the mind, and letting that go, letting that be something that you can let go of, instead of saying, well, I saw the forest backing up. But that's me saying, it's something that I don't think I really, I just think that I need more and more experience of it to really get it. I know that if I want to make the world a better place, it's my job on me, and I don't know what that takes. I just keep going. When I first saw myself, the self part of myself, I was so shocked and amazed, because I realized that I had tried to control the weather. I mean, I thought that was part of, it's almost fall. Well, I'd like it to be fall now. I mean, kind of like, things aren't moving along fast enough for me. And I was walking on my driveway, and I felt myself go like this, move it on, move it on. And then I realized what I had done. I decided when fall could begin, and then I was going to be disappointed, or I was going to be glad, but it was going to be what I wanted. And so I saw that as myself, and it's part of that. And seeing that was like an embarrassment to myself, and it was easier to get rid of than some of the other stuff that happens all the time. But it's there. It is. I can't even imagine what it. I want to know. I want to imagine what it's like really to be without self. And you still have to know your name, and you have to, present your driver's license, which I, by the way, renewed for something like 16 years. It was pretty good. And I was so afraid they would give me a driving test or something, because I'm so old now, And but they didn't. It did it all online. So, and they sent it in the mail, and there it is. So that's a part of, yourself is your ID, right? That's your ID. Going to the doctor, you got your ID? You have your insurance card with all your vital statistics? No, so it's not like I thought about this a long time this morning, sitting on my balcony looking at the sun coming up and stuff, and I didn't come up with any answers, but I thought of those two people and how the self just over time eroded. It just eroded until it didn't have the strength to protest about its, that it was going to be gone. And of course, when you read all this stuff, and I remember Nipan talking to us about this too, like, you're happy. Like, I'm happy. And I'm happy, but I haven't tried to get rid of myself either. So I'm not very well. So this is what I think about. What am I doing here? Is my goal to make this world a better place? And the answer is no. I just want to be able to see it. I want to see it and know it. And I don't want it to try and escape all the time. And so I am going to take a moment and just see if there's something else. And if there is, I'll let you know what it is. I think so much of what, when we think if I can help the situation or whatever, is very egotistical. That's my own experience of myself is knowing what's better for somebody or what's good for somebody. And when in fact, for myself, I guess I know, but it's like making the world a better person is like being such a busybody, always knowing what's better for everybody. It's like visiting nurses sometimes when they come to your house and they tell you how to live, Most of them aren't like that. They're just wonderful. I know better for your husband. I know better. And I see a lot of that idea of making it better as being sort of intrusive, because the world is what it is. And I think that just the whole description, the discovery of it. I think of my father, who really had no time for the spiritual life until he was probably in his 90s. And so he asked me one time, "Do you think I should go to church?" And I said, "No, I don't. I think you won't get anything out of it, really." And but he became so much more open. And why am I saying this? Just because he had nothing to lose. Now there's nothing to lose. He knows he's going to die. He's facing it. He's not afraid. He's not upset about it. He's got his family around him. If he wants to bother anybody, he'll do it. He had moments of being afraid, and when he fell, and the guy who came to help him looked like a former Hell's Angel, and my father was always, terrified of people like that, and rightly so. But this fellow was a Vietnam veteran, and he had been a medic, And he got my father, he got his confidence, and then he helped him up. My father was able to stand on his own feet again. But he saw himself, my father lost a lot of his self, the big thing, and he said it was so much easier to get along with. And when I think of things like that, I think this is what makes the world a better place. So this is my father stops bothering everybody, and he's happy with himself. He died. I was there. His last self was taking my hand. I'm standing next to him and shaking my arm, shaking my hand, going like this at me. and his smile, and then the next, and then he went into the deep breathing, hard breathing, and I had to leave the room for a little while, and when I came back, he was gone, and his eyes were open, and they were so blue. He was gone, and he never did any of the right things that they tell you as a spiritual person you should do, and he had a good death. And if that's all we can do to make the world a better place, so be it. Help somebody have a good death. And I'm going to stop now, because I really, all it does is bring up feelings, and it's so obvious what they would be. So thank you very much. And if anyone has anything to say, we have a few minutes. I see Nancy. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I had a house full of family till yesterday. So I've been busy.
It's good to get away. Escape.
Lisa, I will say one thing. The people you described are some very big things, very lofty things, but maybe a way to make the world a better place. 1,000 little kindnesses, 1,000 little ones.
Yeah.
Every day. You don't have to do the big sacrifice.
Right. Some people
that's
do.
Fantastic if somebody can, but not everybody can do that. I'm thinking of somebody I met, I didn't know very well, but constantly doing little unexpected kindnesses. Wow, things, little tiny things, but lots of them. So, and it made a difference in my day.
Yeah.
Made the world better for me, and I can't help but think that person's doing it as a lifestyle. That's what they do. They see someone and they think, oh, this person could use this, or I'm going to send them a nice card and tell them to contact me if they need any help or something. All those little things. And if everybody did it, just imagine. So maybe we don't have to set our goals with huge acts of sacrifice, or so wonderful that some people can.
Jordan and I eat at the diner in Monroe a lot. It's just that, it's a nice place. It's run by a Greek family. Very, very nice place. But the thing that is really, I was thinking about that the other day. My husband walks with a walker, and he's quite disabled now. So it's, it's a struggle sometimes to get into the restaurant or out. And people who come, it's all kinds of people, and everyone is so kind and so helpful, and clear the way. Here comes the guy with the walker, whatever, and are you sure it's all right? And holding the doors. The people who work there run and hold the doors for us and everything like that. Although we don't have to have that, we can get in without doing that. But it's so many people then to think. And it's very often you look around and see they're with a very, now I guess I'm a very elderly person, but a real elderly person who's, doddering, and so and yet they look to you to see if they can help you. I mean, it's an amazing place. It's in a town where it has, has no real identity at all. But that is, it's very touching. And people, they stop their kids and everything. So, and it's not like the kids are going to run down, but they just want to make sure that the way is clear. That's all. And I don't see that in other places that we go. And I mean, I guess you see some of it, but that's just their whole impulse is to help or to make it easier. Give you have a good day. So it is now time, the witching hour. Thank you, everybody, and you're putting up with me, and I in turn will put up with you. Have a wonderful. The world will be good. So. Take this off.